You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
It's Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones after week 9 of the CFL season. I'm just back from a camping trip in the mountains, and I don't know how we somehow avoided all of those crazy storms in southern Alberta, but they kind of stretched from Lake Louise all the way to Calgary and north, Cochrane, kind of Airdrie, the whole thing. I don't know if you've seen pictures of this, Sheldon, but there's like golf ball sized hail. The Calgary airport, one of the terminals that looked like the roof like caved in. Like, I don't know how we avoided it. So it's about 4:30. We're at the Cave and Basin in Banff, and then we leave and we start driving towards kind of the Lake Louise area, and we had rain. We didn't run into this crazy hail, but man, what a crazy week. Saturday was all right. Sunday was just in a cloud of smoke, like hanging out with Snoop Dogg in Paris. And then Monday was these crazy ass storms. Me cooking burgers in the rain, on this portable barbecue. I got the tent draped in our living room, drying out right now, but hey, that's what getting outside's all about. You were in the same postal code as a new world record set on Saturday, Sheldon. We'll talk about that later, but you were breathing the same air almost as greatness.
Nice. That's good. That's good to know.
I'm talking about Joey Jaws Chestnut, man.
Oh, jeez, I'm tired. Yes.
You had no idea.
It's been a day. No, yeah, Joey Chestnut. I made it there when they were just finishing and counting up how many he ate.
Wow.
So I missed the actual feat, but I got to see him raise up that pink wrestling belt that they gave him. 343 mini donuts.
Oh my! Like I just think about how you would feel afterwards.
He's a skinny man. Like he's got to purge. You think he purges?
Ooh.
That'd be terrible for his esophagus.
I don't think he does.
He's got then. I don't know what happens after, because it doesn't stay there at all. That's for sure.
Yeah. Either way.
How do you, what's kind of sad though, and I get it, they're athletes and they probably weren't, trying to eat as many calories as that, but 4 riders together, injured riders, only got like 90.
Okay, how many minutes was it?
I think it was 10.
Oh, you think 4 of those guys could have put at least 175, 200 back?
You would think. There was like other single people who were at that level of 175, 200.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like, obviously they were just there to be, part of it and not actually attempt to. But 343, that makes me sick, but I'm impressed.
I've had, I just had a bag of mini donuts at the Red Deer Fair a couple weeks ago. They're a lot easier to crush in a short amount of time than Timbits are, and I've done both. But yeah, once you get north of 300, almost 300 of anything is pretty damn impressive. So yeah, you were in the presence of greatness, my man.
I was 25, 30 feet away. I'm mad because 2 of my friends both got pictures with him. So
was that before or after the competition? Because I'm extremely jealous. I also want to know, how far in advance do they announce that he'll be in Regina? Because I think August long 2025, I might have to make the pilgrimage to also breathe the same air as Jaws.
Both the pictures, I believe. No, one was post, one was pre. I guess he was hanging out in the VIP section of the Ludacris concert at the exhibition the night before. So my buddy Matt was there. And then Alex from Piffles, he got a picture with him. I'm pretty sure it was right after the because he had his belt, I think, in the
He
picture.
did, yeah.
So that would have been after the competition there. But this is the third year in a row he's been at the X, so I would assume they're probably going to keep bringing him back. He got a big crowd and whatever. They raising money for the food bank. I think it was like 400,000 meals that they raised so far with his partnership or something like that. So
all because he's showing up there and eating an obscene amount of fair food. I love to see that.
Yeah.
The first game of week 9 had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers shutting out the BC Lions. I think you had said on the last show, if the Bombers are going to rely on 5 field goals from Sergio Castillo, they're not going to win. Well, you weren't exactly wrong because he kicked 6.
Don't worry, it was pointed out to me in comments. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm glad I got checked. That's great, but you shouldn't have been able to beat BC with that many field goals. But hey, they had a bad night, so I guess Crow is on the menu for me.
Well, this might be the worst game Vernon Adams Jr. has played in a BC Lions uniform. And, now he's hurt. They do say he's week to week, but that performance off the bye against a Winnipeg team who only scored 1 touchdown in this game, who only had, a couple against Toronto last week and still lost 16-14, but I don't think anybody could have expected that performance from the Lions offense. It was dismal. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, and they weren't missing anybody on offense. They actually got somebody back, somebody very dynamic, and he wasn't able to help them out there. So yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe they were a little bit overconfident, knowing that they were coming off the bye, knowing that Winnipeg was on a short week, and maybe they let that get to their heads. But if anything has been proven in this year in the CFL is any team can win on any given day. So you can't take any team for granted. And we saw that a couple times this weekend.
I actually don't know if this is some sort of record, but I almost feel like it's the largest, margin in time of possession since I've started the show. The Bombers had the ball for almost 42 minutes. And that just goes to show that BC had 4 first downs. Like, that's actually downright embarrassing. And I think the 4th came in the 4th quarter. Like, this was just complete dominance from the Bomber defense. And look, the Lions defense did what they could. I mean, you hold a team to 25 points, 6 field goals. You at least expect something from your offense to at least get field position back and make things happen. But that was not happening in this one. Collaros goes 27 of 33 with a touchdown. He threw for 295 yards. And early on in the game, you kind of thought that maybe BC had some opportunities here because Chris Trevler got stuffed on 3rd and short again. So I'm thinking, whoa, that was an issue against Toronto. It's an issue here against BC, but I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't matter one little bit. Ontario Wilson had 112 yards on 7 catches. Lucky Whitehead makes his return to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, scores their only touchdown of the game. He made 6 catches, 56 yards. Looks like he fit right back into his old place of employment, and I think he was delighted to do that against his previous place of employment in BC.
Yeah, great game. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot I can really say about this game. It's just because of how terrible BC came out. But one thing I do want to kind of point out, and I don't know if it's irony or not, but after the week going into the bye, Vernon Adams was getting a lot of hate online again. and I don't think it was warranted. I think he's been playing, at least until these last two games, MOP level, I would say. I don't think there's, maybe Bo could be the other nominee if you're going quarterbacks, but well, all those people who were, saying how much they hate Vernon Adams and don't want Vernon Adams on their team, Jake Dolegala is your quarterback now. Have fun.
Well, I don't know.
At least for a few games.
I don't know how long VA is going to miss. Does this mean like the MOP battle is again wide open?
Well, it's interesting because like it would have been Cody and VA at the beginning. Cody missed some time. Bo stepped up. But if Vernon misses a significant amount of time, plus having two very subpar games in a row there, that's definitely got to hurt it a little bit. But maybe, it's going to be tough for Justin McInnis to keep his pace up, I think, with Joel Gala going in there. So that hurts his chances. I would say yes, the MOP race would definitely be wide open now.
Justin McInnis, 0 catches on 3 targets. I had the brilliant combo of him and Vernon Adams Jr. in my fantasy lineup, scoring a combined 0.2 points because VA was my captain, and thankfully his point total got doubled.
Captain, my captain.
That just goes to show like the absolute dominance. Probably a game that BC should just go out and flush down the toilet right away, but it's pro sports. Got to keep going with the next guy. Jake Dolegala's the next guy to start for the Lions. Yeah. And it was an opportunity for Saskatchewan to move up in the standings, but Edmonton says, hey, not so fast. We will get to that right away here. But does this... I'm hesitant to... And we always see this after week 1. We see it after preseason, overreacting to every little thing, both negatively and positively. But it just feels like after the egg Winnipeg laid in Toronto. See, and that's the thing. It wasn't a long time ago when Winnipeg, lost 16-14, and now we're all sort of anointing them as moving up the standings. But they did look like a different team than they had looked in any of the previous weeks this season. The D-line looked good. Willie Jefferson had 2 knockdowns and a sack. The first player in CFL history to have 70 knockdowns and 70 sacks, which is remarkable. I don't know if we'll ever see somebody else do that again, but I mean, does it look like this is something that the Bombers can sustain?
Well, that's the thing. I just don't know, because I still don't know if the Bombers are a good team or not. I still don't know if BC is as bad a team as they have been these past 2 games. Like, I don't think Edmonton is a 1-7 team. I know they are, but I think that the way that teams have been playing has just been so bizarre in certain games and uncharacteristic in other games, and it's getting very hard for me to pick winners. Like, I think I was 2-2 pick 'em this week, which I guess it's not terrible, but I don't know. The one kind of funny and ironic. Well, I don't know if it's ironic, but so in the CFL podcast fantasy league, we were playing against the average, so it was kind of like a bye week for everyone. Okay, and so you play your score against the average. Well, I think 12 out of the 14 people took VA as their captain. So I'm sure the average is quite low, and I'm pretty sure I was still way below it because I did not have a good week. But to answer your question, like, I don't think, like, it's getting really hard for me to do my power rankings, to be honest, because
no doubt
certain teams think that, like, I think that they should be higher, but then I think, like, no, last week they were terrible. Why would they be high? And it just, I don't know. We're going to talk about the Rider game soon, but that one, like, I kind of figured this was going to happen, but it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen. So it's just, it's entertainment though. Like we can't say that we're not being entertained. Maybe as fans, our teams not winning is not entertaining, but at the same time, when we're expecting to win and we're expecting to lose and the opposite happens, that's exciting. And I think this has been a very entertaining season so far.
Yeah, Winnipeg is now off, and many times we see a team going into the bye week already mentally in the bye. So big for Winnipeg to go into the bye with that win, and then they come back from the bye playing BC in BC. So I guess we're going to see. We don't know if VA will be back for that game. We're going to see if those Bombers are, I guess, for real, because then they're home to Hamilton, and then Winnipeg is in Saskatchewan for Labor Day. Suddenly, That's
a huge game.
Yeah, it already kind of... Well, it looked like teams were almost going to have opposite records going into Labor Day, but not anymore. The stakes are going to be high, and they always are high for Labor Day, even if it's 0-7 versus 7-0. It's a special weekend.
But it's higher this year, just because that early game that usually doesn't happen between the Riders and the Bombers has already happened. Yeah. The Riders won it, so they could get the season series with a win at Labor Day. If they lose Labor Day, it's more than likely that they lose the season series because they will not win the Banjo Bowl. If we're just going on history, right? So, yeah, huge game. I know it's still a few weeks away, but you got to circle that one on your calendar.
Now, game 2 of week 9 was the Montreal Alouettes beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats 33-16. Unfortunately, Sheldon, now it didn't end up, I think you know what I'm talking about here, it didn't end up messing up the final outcome of the game, but that call in the second quarter that's the worst call of the year, isn't it? Now, I'll try to talk about what had happened up until that point, but Davis Alexander gets the start for the Alouettes, and early on in the first half, he does throw an interception. He also loses a fumble, and I kind of thought, he looked great against Sask. It didn't look like he was going to continue that trend against Hamilton, but Hamilton wasn't able to turn those turnovers into any points. The Alouettes end up picking off Bo Levi Mitchell twice in this game. They didn't turn those into touchdowns, but they turned them into 2 field goals, which is a lot better than nothing, like the Ticats did. And then in the second half, the balance of power just started shifting towards Montreal, and they really put the Ticats away. But the game was close in the second quarter, a little under 6 minutes left. And the Alouettes force a fumble on fullback James Tuck. And they recovered the ball. But
pretty much immediately.
I guess a premature whistle overrides the fumble and the recovery. I sit here several days later still dumbfounded by this decision, man.
Yeah, and the league hasn't come out and explained. Like, I know they gave the commentators gave a little bit of an explanation, but like, video replay is there to fix obvious errors that the humans made. An early whistle is an obvious error, and you can't really get much more immediate than the way that the Montreal Alouettes recovered it. I know it wasn't instantaneous, but there was zero chance for any other outcome.
There was 2 or 3 Als defenders in the area, and they got the ball. And
the guy who fumbled it, he had zero chance to get the ball.
Yeah.
He was flat down away. So that was a very easy reversal call, because you can't be a professional league with video replay and let that type of crap happen.
Why even video replay?
Yeah. And then of course, again, Andre Proulx is getting a lot of he wasn't the one who blew the whistle.
Yeah.
He wasn't the guy who did it, but he's the face of it, and he has trouble explaining it. And so he's he's the face of the issue when it's not him. But like, yeah, it was just brutal. And it was the one thing in a long time that like the entire CFL fan base was like in agreement on. Even Ticat fans were like, yeah, that shouldn't have been we'll take it, I guess. But no, like it's just it looks so Bush, like terrible. Like they need to amend that rule, and they just need to say like common sense prevail. Just make it make sense. Yeah. If it would have been one thing if it was 5 or 6 seconds later, a Montreal player would have picked it up. But no, like if there's zero chance for another player to pick it up, then go with what it should be.
Now, I understand that this happens in many sports. It happens in hockey. It happens in football. Whenever the whistle goes, almost whatever happens afterwards doesn't matter. But I'm saying that's a dumb rule. If the whistle's blown too early, then like what are we doing? Yeah. Like like you said, I don't know, how do you write common sense into the rule book? But in this case, it clearly felt like common sense that obviously it would have been Montreal ball. Hey, maybe you're not able to tack on the yards that he would have gained after the recovery. Fine. Yeah. But it was clearly Montreal ball, and it ended up working out in the end. And I don't want that to, overshadow the whole thing, but that was egregious. That was silly and ridiculous. And I think we've kind of beat
all of those words. Yeah. All of those adjectives are accurate.
Yeah. And Hamilton, they had a chance here, man. Like I said, they didn't take advantage of those turnovers. And then Davis Alexander, to his credit, stayed poised and clearly had quite the connection with Charleston Rambo, because Rambo, $2,500 on CFL Fantasy, he has a touchdown and he comes within 1 yard of another touchdown in the second half. He's down at the 1, so he ends his day with 4 catches, 86 yards, and then another critical moment came in the fourth quarter, where Hamilton's not really able to get anything going here. And they actually pinned Montreal deep in their own end. 7-yard line. In the fourth quarter, Montreal's still up by, 2 scores at this point. But what do the Owls do? They drive 103 yards and put the dagger in to the Ticats to take a 27-8 lead. But on that drive, it was assisted by a unnecessary roughness penalty that the Alouettes took, an unnecessary hit to Davis Alexander that Casey Sales made. 25 yards ended up being the penalty. The next play, Caleb Evans comes in. It's a 39-yard completion and an Alouettes touchdown. But it's those stupid plays by the Ticats defense that, look, they assisted the Owls. All they did was add fuel to the fire a little bit here, and just an unnecessary penalty through and through. It's in the name, unnecessary roughness. Just a dumb decision made by Casey Sales, who's supposed to be a leader on that defense.
Yeah, and you could tell he kind of did let up a little bit too. It could have been a lot worse than it was. But at the same time, I have a tough time seeing a player get a 25-yard penalty and still staying in the game.
Yeah, that's weird, eh?
It's kind of like if you get a 5-minute major in hockey, you're pretty much kicked out of the game, right? If it's not fighting, I think. I could be wrong, and I'm sure people. Or 5 minutes in a game is usually what it is. Anyway, yeah. So like I understand that 25 yards is a big punishment. It's almost a quarter of the field, but if you've done something to deserve that, then why are you still playing? I don't know. That's just me, but yeah, it was. That happens a lot, and the good teams are the teams that capitalize when other teams make mistakes and stupid penalties, and Montreal did that, and yeah, like you said, put the nail kind of in the coffin of the game.
Yeah, because Bo answered back with a Tim White touchdown, but The
quite
Owls.
nonchalant.
Yeah.
That it just kind of like, I liked how like they were losing and they acted like it when they scored that touchdown. There was no celebration. He just caught the ball, threw it to the ref, and they kind of got back in there. So I appreciated that.
I know it was right around the 3-minute warning kind of thing, but then Montreal gets another touchdown and really put the game away there. But on that drive, an injury to Caleb Evans, non-contact injury. He ran for a 7-yard gain, and then just looked like he blew out his knee. They've already announced that he's going to be out for the season, and the Owls have brought in Dominic Davis. No matter what you think about his passing acumen, he's pretty good at the short yardage, and I think the Owls are going to be... He had double-digit touchdowns a few times, didn't he?
Yeah, 13 last year, I think.
That's crazy. So, yeah, they'll be using him a lot there. But, man, so tough to see for Caleb Evans. Season-ending injury to any player. Yeah. Man, that just sucks through and through. And, hey, we're going to see these two teams play again. Kind of thought we'd see what the Ticats were made of in this home-and-home series with Montreal. I thought it would be critical for the Ticats to try to win the home one. Now they go into Montreal, probably the toughest place in the CFL to play right now, and in danger of falling to 2-7 on the season. This was a critical loss for the Ticats.
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't get any easier, and they... they had the momentum of beating Edmonton 2 games in a row, and if they could have got this one, then you're looking at them, having a chance to fight with Toronto for that third playoff spot. So they pretty much need to win in Montreal to kind of keep that alive, because Toronto, they looked good in the first half, I guess we'll say that. But they, so it kind of looked like they were getting their footing back, but then collapsed. And so I guess same thing as the Riders and Bombers. They have a crucial 2-game series coming up here pretty quickly. And just like the Riders, Hamilton won that first one, so they could win the season series. So they need to figure it out, and they need to start playing some better complete football and not just Bo Levi playing really good.
Up next, the Edmonton Elks getting their first win of the season by beating the Riders 42-31, and the Elks single-handedly destroyed the record-setting pace that the Riders were setting when it came to stopping the run. Now, they were giving up 48 yards a game, something crazy like that. I think it's fair to say that that's a pace that is unsustainable, but giving up over 275 yards on the ground is not the way I saw that going down, Sheldon.
No, like I thought that Trey would maybe get 100 yards rushing just because of his elusiveness, and I think that was the issue. I think Corey Mace and the Riders, they keyed in on stopping Trey Ford too much, and they didn't. They weren't gap sound. They were trying to stop the runs from the outside, and so I think that they weren't able to crash down on the lines or on the lanes that Javon Leake had, because he had 2 monster runs, and Trey Ford was doing really good at reading the Riders' defense. That big 90-some yard touchdown to Tevin Jones, I could see it. I was sitting in the stadium. The Maxtron was on him close, and you could tell that he saw something in the defense. He yelled over to Jones. He audibled the streak, and then just dumped it right over top of them. And so, for that kind of caliber of a quarterback who has just been sitting on the bench because they weren't playing him, like for him to be able to recognize that in his second year, that's pretty darn impressive.
Man, I know you said Leake had 2 monster runs. It almost seems like every single run that he had was monster. He had 2 of over 20, 5 of over 10, 12 carries for 169 yards.
Nice.
So Trey wasn't even the second leading rusher on the Elks. Justin Rankin had 6 yards a carry, 10 carries for 60 yards. Not only was the Riders' angles bad, the tackling was bad. They seemed to sort of clean it up at the beginning and in the third quarter. But that first half, that hole that was dug was brutal. And yeah, you mentioned Tevin Jones. I do believe it was his first start of the season with the Elks, making his return to Mosaic Stadium. He made some big plays for the Riders in his career, while both touchdown passes from Trey Ford did go to number 84, Tevin Jones. So a return to the lineup and a return to the place where he used to play. What a performance it was from Tevin Jones. I think the critical moment in this game probably happened in the third quarter, because the game was pretty close until the very end, when the Elks were able to pull away. Let's say it that the Riders started with an electric Super Mario return, the kickoff right from the beginning. And I'm sure Elks fans right at that very moment were thinking, oh no. But it felt like they needed another one from Mario if they were going to win the game.
Yeah, honestly, in the stadium, when I had the whole week, I know I still picked the Riders to win, but I was feeling bad about the game. I just, like they said, that Rider fan PTSD of backup quarterbacks. But as soon as, when Mario got that ball and I saw that he was gone, everything went away, and I was like, holy crap, we are going to destroy these guys. And this is going to be the bounce back game after the Montreal loss, and everything's going to be right again. And it just didn't happen. And it was weird. We'll talk about it, but the Riders had a lot of chances, actually. That first possession that the Elks had in the second half, just penalty after penalty after penalty, and then it transferred over to the Riders' possession, the next possession too. And so I was actually messaging, I think it was Andrew from Turf District, and he's like, don't worry, the Elks are going to elk this up. And I was like, it looks like they're elking it up right now. But yeah, it just, Jarius Jackson and the Elks had a great coaching. They just had a great game plan, and they were able to shut down what they needed to shut down, and they were able to exploit what they needed to exploit. It was masterful, actually.
It was right at the beginning of the fourth quarter when the Riders were actually leading 21-20, but they started at their own 1 yard line, and it looked like it was going to be pretty rough for the Riders, because it's 2nd and 10 on the 1. They get the first down with Jarrett Stearns, but it gets called back because of an offside to Sam Emelis. So they redo the second down. Edmonton takes a roughing the passer, which actually got some breathing room for the Riders. They took another penalty on that drive, an objectionable conduct penalty. Couple plays later, Shea Patterson gets sacked, and the Riders do have to punt the ball. But the very next play, 51 yards to the house for Javon Leake, and that's the moment when it really seemed like the winds were out of the sails for the Riders.
Yeah, that's what it felt like in the stadium too. And one thing I would like to point out to all the Rider fans, myself included, who call out the command center and say that they have a bias against the Riders sometimes, that roughing the passer was, called from the command center. It was they did notice it. They noticed that there was contact at the face of Shea Patterson. So it was good to see that. Good to see them actually doing what they should. But yeah, like you said, it just kind of seemed like the Riders had that momentum with that penalty and then the other penalty, and then it kind of felt like because the punt it would have hemmed them in deep, but then I think the Elks had a pretty good return to set them up near midfield or whatever, and yeah, we're cheering, we're loud on defense because we think we stop them here, we can go in and get another touchdown and hopefully seal this game off. And yeah, just Javon Leak right up the middle. And it's just like, what is happening?
I'm looking at the stat sheet. So Javon Leak's first carry of the fourth quarter was a 51-yard touchdown. His second carry was only a 1-yard gain, but his third carry was a 61-yard touchdown. So in his first 3 carries in the fourth quarter, he had 113 yards rushing?
Yep.
Wow. And so we actually watched this game at like midnight in the tent, streaming it on the iPad, and obviously my wife, an Elks fan, was quite happy, and I was happy to see Trey make plays, and I was happy to see Trey get the win. So I'm not that upset about it, but 515 yards of net offense from the Elks, it was just destruction. But they look like a completely different team. And didn't the Elks or the Riders got a touchdown like sort of right at the end of the game to make the
the last play of the game.
So it made the score a little bit more respectable here, and it might be good when it comes to point differential because they do play, I believe, one more time, but they look like a completely different team now with Trey, and I think that the best thing that the Elks can do, and I know that they will tell you we don't talk about contracts during the season, we don't want that distraction around the team, but the best thing they can do is extend the man and try to make some of those fans in Edmonton happy and give them a reason to keep coming back to Commonwealth to watch him play.
Absolutely. And I would hope that he would want to do that. I hope that he hasn't, felt, negative things about having to sit on the bench for as long as he did, and especially after what he was able to do last year. So I hope for Elks fans that he does re-sign there, but, it'd be pretty interesting if he decided that he wasn't happy with how everything went down and he decided to take his talents to the biggest offer.
And up next, the Elks host the BC Lions. The Jake Dolegala-led BC Lions at home on Sunday could be a big opportunity for the Elks to get another victory here. I do want to mention an email we got from Michael Walker. You can send a message to the show as well, toandout.ca, and click mailbag. He says, hey, Travis and Sheldon, after Trey Ford's performance in the last 2 weeks, is it harsh to sum up Chris Jones' tenure with a line from This Is Spinal Tap? It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. Thanks for all the hard work. I'm good for any sort of Spinal Tap reference on To and Out, so thanks for that email, Michael.
I mean, the Elks offense certainly turned it up to 11, so...
nailed it.
Yes. Yeah, I think... I concur. I hope Chris Jones is pretty happy with himself. Let's just say that, because he's hamstrung this team.
Yeah.
Well, if they make the playoffs, does he get playoff money as part of his contract? I hope not, because I don't know if coaches get playoff money or if it's just the players do. Probably just the players, but
yeah, I think so.
I just feel like if Trey was starting at the beginning of the year with those games that went the way that they did, at least half of them are probably wins. Just in my opinion. And I know it's easy to look back and say that, but like you can just see when he went in the fourth quarter against Hamilton and this game here, you can just see that the players are fired up and they're playing harder. And I don't know if that, like, I don't want to read in too much of that and think that they don't want to play for McLeod, but something, a switch was flipped, and, talented players are playing like they should be. Gino had a couple good catches.
Trey even made Boris Beatty make his kicks.
Yeah.
He's a magical guy.
Yeah.
I actually do want to mention this. Man, a longtime Grey Cup attendee like myself saw this news come across the pipe from the organizers of the Spirit of Edmonton, and I think it's long been the best party of the Grey Cup. And I think since COVID, things have been a little bit different when it comes to the Grey Cup. And we saw, I think, what happened in Regina at the Spirit of Edmonton Saturday night. I mean, almost nobody in that party. That was strange to see. But they said they're going to be in Vancouver to throw on this party for this upcoming Grey Cup. But right now, they said they don't know if they can get to Winnipeg in 2025. So, yeah, they're looking for sponsors. They're looking for any sort of support that they can get. So, hey, if you're going to be in Vancouver for the Grey Cup, and if you're a Lions fan, hey, it might be tempting to go to the Lions Den every single night. But if there's a lineup, let's make sure there's a lineup at Spirit of Edmonton every darn night to keep that party going. It's tradition, man. They were founded in 1974. Let's keep it going for many, many Grey Cups to come. We'll talk about the Riders as well here, because up next, Trevor Harris is not going to be ready to be back. Even Brandon Council, who started at offensive line, has retired after one start
again
for the Riders. So now they go to Ottawa. And Jamie Nye sending out this message. Teams on 4 days rest and on the road so far this season have been 0-4 when it comes to the schedule. Well, now they're going against the team off the bye. Tough assignment going to Ottawa against a team who's playing very well at home and is 5-2. So suddenly it does seem like 5-4 is on the way for the Roughriders.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But it's a good way to see, or a good game to see, like, what this team is made of and what their coaching staff is made of, and how they can, if they can flush this loss and quickly move on to the next game. But the Riders have a tough schedule coming up in the next month, and they need to find ways to win, because they have a few short weeks and they have a few road games on Thursdays against a few teams that are coming off their byes. So, every kind of year in the past 4 or 5 years, the Riders started out pretty hot and then they hit a slump. And the last 2 years, the slump has been, every game after Labor Day. So we can't have that again here. But we just saw what Winnipeg was able to do to BC. I know Winnipeg was playing at home, so that's different than the Riders playing on the road. But hopefully, with Corey Mace, letting Trevor practice and saying there's a chance, hopefully he was able to get Ottawa to have to use up some of their practice time to game plan for him. But it's going to be tough. Drew Brown looks good. We're going to talk about this on the next episode here, but the Riders are definitely tough this week.
The last game of Week 9 was the Calgary Stampeders getting a 27-23 win over the Toronto Argonauts, and let's just say it was 22-6 Argos at halftime. Royce Metier was all over the field. He ends up having an interception for the Argos, and he's making great tackles. Peyton Logan started at running back for the Stamps. Actually, his first career start, as Dedrick Mills has stepped away from the team for personal reasons. But Cameron Dukes, he was running the ball. He had that big completion to DeMonte Coxey in the first half. He has the touchdown to Richie Sindani, and it was just looking like, man, the Argos are kind of bullying the Stampeders here. And then, well, Sheldon, the second half happened.
Yeah, this was like almost exactly how the game between Montreal and Saskatchewan a couple weeks ago went, where Saskatchewan was on the road, they dominated the first half, and then Montreal was able to make the adjustments, and Calgary didn't switch a quarterback, but they were able to make the adjustments, and yeah, it was like a completely different team came out in the second half for both teams. It was I I want to say shocking, but it's not because, like I said before, like a lot of things are happening that we're not expecting, and so I don't know why we're shocked anymore. But Calgary was in jeopardy of their home, being undefeated at home ending, and I don't know if that's what the motivation was, or if Dave Dickinson just really was able to make those decisions and changes. But it, like you said, they just looked like a new team coming out there.
Yeah, the splits for Calgary are wild. They're 0-4 on the road and 4-0 at home.
Mm-hmm.
So McMahon Stadium, tough place to play for anybody
But
this
players
year.
too.
Yeah, exactly. Tough place for the Stamps. It toughens them up going into the game. But obviously the player of the first half was Rene Paredes for the Stamps, whose great season continues. He had a couple from over 50 in this one. Hey, Sergio Castillo had a 60-yarder in this one. That is a couple on the year. And Mike Hogan with the Argos ended up tweeting that John Haggerty, their punter, punted in 8 times for an average of 58.9 yards, which is an Argos all-time record in game average here. So the punters, the kickers, enjoyed the wind at McMahon Stadium. But yeah, the Stamps couldn't do anything in the first half. They got close, but Royce Metier also forced a fumble on Reggie Bagleton. So he had an interception, a forced fumble. He looked great. And then in the second half, I think what was striking to me was Calgary's D-line had their best game of the year. And we always hear that the Argos may have the best O-line in the league, the best rushing attack in the league, but the Stamps, they got all that momentum in the second half, including on a play in the fourth quarter where the Argos O-line stopped. I don't know what happened there, because on that same play, I don't even know if this was shown on TV, Calgary got a bench penalty for contacting an official. But I guess the 10 yards wasn't enough to gain the first down for the Argos there. But kind of a bizarre sequence. And either way, it was just the fourth quarter of Calgary overpowering that Argos O-line. And it was something to see.
It kind of sounded like, or looked like they heard a whistle and stopped. But honestly, like at home, there was a lot of times where I kind of thought I heard a whistle in the crowd. And I don't know if there was or not. But there was I definitely heard something. It didn't sound like an air horn or anything like that, but I thought I just kept hearing something. I was like, what is that? But they and usually when that happens, the refs are pretty quick to blow the play down. So I'm surprised that they didn't. Like on a procedure penalty, they would do that. But I guess if there's no penalty, you can't just blow the whistle because the players stop playing. So but yeah, Calgary's, in the whole second half, they were getting at Dukes. They were pressuring him. They were making him, throw the ball away. Like it was a dominating defense just for one half of the game, and one half was all they needed.
Well, yeah, and there was a sequence in the fourth quarter where it was just bang, 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 bang. Dukes had no time. You saw that sack by Mike Rose in the fourth quarter where Gregor McKellar is just on his heels right from the snap. He just bull rushes him back 5 yards and sacks Cam Dukes like it was the last thing he was going to do. And it was amazing, the dominance that Rose showed. I think he is an underrated D tackle in the CFL. But, I mean, Jake Mayer doing his thing without much of a rushing attack. It was just this sort of, inconsistency we've come to see from him. But when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. But you notice the play calling by the Stampeders, a lot of that stuff to the sideline, and they're willing to make those blocks. They got big physical guys with speed. You just give them the ball and they will make it happen for the Stampeders. Mark and Michelle had a great touchdown in the fourth quarter as well. And once it gets to short yardage, I thought Strevler was unstoppable. He's been stopped a few times. I don't know if Tommy Stevens is stoppable, man.
Yeah, he's the crown. He's the champ right now when it comes to short yardage for sure. I think he's 19 for 19 right now. I think. And he kind of has been quietly doing this for a few years. Like, he hasn't been getting even when Strevler was gone, I don't think he was getting the same respect that Strevler was getting, but Tommy Stevens has been just clutch for the Stamps for the past few seasons. So it's good to see him finally get some recognition for that. And yeah, when you come out, it's just like you're resounded to, they're going to get the first down. Let's get ready for the next series or the next set of downs here. But impressive. I wish that the Riders had a player like that. I think every fan in the league wishes their team had a player like that. So, Stamps fans, you got a good one.
Yeah, when it fell apart for Toronto is the Mark and Michelle touchdown. And then the next drive for Toronto was nothing. It was just getting sacked by Cameron Dukes. And then the next drive, Mayer hits Cam Eccles for that 40-yard touchdown, and Tavares McFadden just misses the interception. Cam Eccles realizes he's not touched, and he dives into the end zone, kind of like the Dolphins that used to reside at West Edmonton Mall, man.
Yeah, it's very impressive. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that is amazing.
So those Stampeders,
no quit.
Yeah, exactly. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to win this game, outscoring Toronto 21-1 in the second half. And I think that 1 point was a kickoff single. That is all the Argos got done in the second half. So the Stamps with a critical win, and now they are in third place in the West. Calgary is going to be playing Toronto again this week. And we're nearing a return for number 12 with the Argos. And I do mention that because it does look like last year it was a big thing for the Argos to just keep punching teams with the running game, and then CK would end up having crazy play action or some crazy play call and have a 70-yard gain. I don't know if they have the same confidence in Cameron Dukes to pull off the same sort of plays. So just football-wise, it does seem like it could be a different Argos team in the near future, whether we like it or not, you know?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything. It's apparent now that, fan dissatisfaction or whatever is not going to change anything. So we just have to deal with it. And I guess hopefully for Argos fans, if you're still on board with them and you want to get some wins, because it's been a tough 4 games. They've only won 1 game in 4, so they need to get back to their winning ways. But yeah, last year it just seemed like they could kind of score at will sometimes, kind of like how a couple years ago Zach Collaros and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers could do it, where a team scores on them and they're like, oh yeah, watch this, hold my beer, and go out and it's a 70-yard drive in 2 plays and it's a touchdown. So for that excitement, I guess Argos fans could be seeing that again soon. But the guy's gonna have some rust. He hasn't played. He's going to have to shake it off a little bit, and hopefully, I don't know, he hasn't started practicing yet that we know of. The league still hasn't said if he's actually completed what he's supposed to complete. You would think that they would be letting fans know or trying to like get fans prepared for the fact that he'll be back. Again, I don't see how any team or any player should be allowed on a team if you're not allowed to be alone with a member of your coaching staff. But it's not for us to decide.
I guess we'll leave it at that. Jake Mayer goes 26 of 37, 287 yards, 2 TDs, and an interception. Actually, their leading rusher was Peyton Logan, 36 yards on 9 carries. The leading rusher for the Argos was Cameron Dukes, 95 yards on 12 carries. Kadeem Carey returning to McMahon Stadium, 8 carries, 31 yards. Props to the Stampeders for limiting the attack from Kadeem Carey. The leading receiver for the Argos was DeMonte Coxey, 4 catches, 61 yards, and the leading receiver from the Stampeders was Reggie Bagleton, 8 catches and 97 yards. Rene Paredes, 4 for 4. Keeping it up on the season. I don't know if it's the same as hockey. When you mention shutout, it becomes jinx. But there's a couple kickers that have some serious streaks going on right now. And normally we make fun of the kickers. But 2 thumbs up to a couple guys keeping it going right now. Sheldon, your power rankings, you mentioned it was tough at the end of week 9. What are we looking at?
As I pull it up here, I haven't done my write-up yet, so I don't really have everything to say, but I'll just kind of go through them really quickly. So Montreal is 1, Ottawa is 2, Saskatchewan 3, BC is 4, Winnipeg is 5, Calgary 6, Toronto 7, Edmonton 8, and Hamilton 9.
A new basement dweller.
New basement dweller. The only thing that I will say is I can accept any sort of criticisms or critiques for 3 through 8 because I really don't know where to line up those teams. I was fighting a lot because I don't think Sask should be as high as 3, but at the same time, BC was worse than them this week. Winnipeg was better than BC, but I still don't think Winnipeg is a better team than Saskatchewan. Calgary was better than Toronto, but like I said, I just know for a fact that Hamilton is the last team. I know they beat Edmonton a couple times, but they're still the last, and I know that Montreal and Ottawa are number 1 and number 2 right now. So let me know in the comments, everybody. I love it.
More movement to happen in the power rankings in the coming days, and week 10 of the CFL season is next. I'm Travis Currah. He is Sheldon Jones. You can rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. On YouTube, you can check out the website, twoandout.ca, and find our links to support our Patreon there as well. We will talk to you soon, getting you ready for week 10.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.